I'm swinging all big. 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 I'm swinging all big.
Is this better?
Yes, you can.
Hello, guys.
Hey, hey.
Welcome out there.
Welcome back to the show. Everything and Nothing.
With
Tangents on everything and nothing.
Tangents on Everything and Nothing.
starring Everything and Nothing.
Yep. I'm Sam.
Jeremiah here.
And behind the camera and at the command center is John Simon. Say hello, John.
Hello, John.
There we are. So tonight...
Mm-hmm.
And before that, though, we have a few words and announcements, and
Absolutely.
we are looking for sponsorships.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody out there in our local area, a small town or community that wants to have their businesses, I'm sorry, what's that?
Go like this.
Go like this?
Yeah.
Is my hair a little poofed up? I'm sorry.
Well, you've got this weird.
This is me.
I've got the box knife. Hang on.
That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, just take the whole top half off. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm not using it.
Like this.
Look, if anybody in town knows me, they know my hair has been an uncontrolled beast since I was 5. It's okay. But in any case,
Yeah.
we are looking for some sponsorships. So anybody in the local area with small business that they'd like to promote, or a major business that's looking for extra customer base, get a hold of us. Email us at radioactiveshack.
At time of your half-life.
Thank you. At time of your half-life.
With the hyphen between half and life.
With the hyphen between half and life. I'm sure it's up on the screen right now,
Directly
down
below
below.
Jeremiah.
Right there. Great.
Yep.
And we'll get in touch with you and see what we can do on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Any announcements?
Things going on in the community. Obviously, today is Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So there are all kinds of Valentine-themed things going on throughout the town of Spencer. I can speak for Babs. We've had lots and lots of roses get bought today, and these little 4-pack of strawberries dipped in chocolate.
Oh,
We've sold so many of those today and yesterday and the day before that we got in like 150 pounds of strawberries.
Oh.
So that we could dip these strawberries in chocolate, and they've went fast.
Eat them before they get fuzzy.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, the chocolate helps
yeah.
them keep them from getting fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that going on. Thank you once again to the Owen County Public Library for letting us film here. They've got events going on this week. I don't know what they are, but they do. So stop on in and ask them about them.
Manhattan Shorts. Call down and get your code to watch the Manhattan Shorts.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not
code. It's online. You get 4 hours to watch it once you enter the code. But,
okay.
See,
on down.
And the last time I participated in this, we were all still in lockdown at the time, and me and 4 friends had a Discord watch party for the Manhattan Film Festival. Just showed it over the screen share on Discord. It's a great time. One of those films really, really...
You keep looking at me. The camera's over there.
I'm sorry. This is weird. I'm used to the camera being here, not over here
lazy.
this time.
Come on.
Anyway.
You should have been looking at the camera anyway, not at John.
But yeah, come up with a entire... Well, he was talking, to be fair.
That's true.
But find a good way to put together a small watch party, have everybody come over, and you too can be traumatized by some of the short films that are on there, because I was by one. Oh, all eyes on me.
Just for those who are trying to watch on Twitch, something's up with OBS. We'll get that sorted as soon as we can. But those on YouTube, enjoy it. And those who are listening to this on anchor.fm/Time of Your Half-Life, I hope you're enjoying it. And
special thanks to our Patreon, Sol Miguel.
Yep.
If anyone else wants to join the Patreon, look us up on patreon.com/Radioactive Shack.
Hey, stand up and look at your shirt.
Oh, my shirt?
You gotta stand up, otherwise the letters are in the way.
Oh, my lord.
Right. Down a little bit. Crouch. Sidestep. I can only see brewing. There we go. Civilian Brewing Corps. Hey Ben.
Yeah, anyway.
Tonight's guest is Mick Arney. Mick Arney. He's a paleontologist, a LARPer, and other stuff. We try to talk about everything we can, and unfortunately, but fortunately, we talk most about dinosaurs because we have a paleontologist that lives in Indiana.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know why, because there's no dinosaurs
None
in Indiana that we can look at.
We get Ice Age animals and ocean stuff.
Yep.
The ocean stuff just gets weirder and weirder, though. That's personally my favorite section.
All right, so with no further ado,
that's all, folks.
All right,
we're
bye.
going to go ahead and start the interview with Mick. Why do I keep saying that?
Why? Reasons. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mick Arney, for doing this, and here we go.
Are you sure?
No.
And hi, I'm John Simon, and welcome to Tangents on Everything and Nothing. Today with me is Mick. It's Mick, right? I wanted to say Mike for some reason. Mick Arney.
Yeah.
A LARPer, a paleontologist. Is that the right word?
Paleontologist, archaeologist. I kind of dabble in everything like ancient history and prehistoric life. So
Sweet. Which subject would you like to start on?
Well, geez. That's a good question.
It's the tough one.
Yeah. Could rant about anything.
We will. Oh, we will.
Well, I guess since we were just talking about dinosaur bones, and I was showing you dinosaur bones, we'll start with that.
Works for me.
So I guess what the work I do mostly is last year I got an internship at the Wyoming Dinosaur Center, which is based in Thermopolis, Wyoming. It's a very small town, very rural. It's a
Aptly named.
Yeah. It's got a lot of hot springs, like the hot gates of Sparta, the legend of the 300. But anyway, so while I was working out there, I was in charge of a site that we manage. But primarily, let's get to like the dinosaurs that I dig up. So I mostly work on Diplodocus bones, which, as you know, Diplodocus is a very large sauropod. It's the long necks, Everyone's thinking like the Brachiosaurus in Jurassic Park, but it's not that. It had a more horizontal neckline. But we also find other sauropods in our formation, which is Camarasaurus, which is like a Brachiosaurus, as well as Apatosaurus, which you all know as Brontosaurus, and they changed the name, but believe it or not, they brought Brontosaurus back, which is pretty cool.
Let's take that tangent for a second. Brontosaurus, that originally, wasn't that one of those, they found something and just threw a skull on it from a few hundred miles away, gave it a name even though it was already discovered? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so the gentleman who discovered it, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, it might have been Coper Marsh. Those are the big guys of the Bone Wars. but specifically, I don't remember off the top of my head. Either way, yeah, no, it's exactly that. They found part of the Apatosaurus, and then or I guess Brontosaurus in this case, and they managed to put it back together, but they never found a head. There was supposedly a head found, but these were two different paleontologists, and at that time, they didn't really talk to each other. It was very much bravado and ego then. It's like, who has the biggest dinosaur? So, yeah, he kind of just threw on a Camarasaurus head, which is where we get the distinctive shape, and now it's been known like it's a more narrower head because Apatosaurus is part of the Diplodocus family.
So what brought down his big D energy?
What do you mean by that? His big D energy?
Well, his dinosaurs. You said it was all egos and everything.
Well, it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
They were too afraid because he was so big in his field and he had such tight control over, I guess it would be his IP at that point, that they just waited until he died. It wasn't until like the 50s that they're like, hey, maybe we should do something different. And then it wasn't until a few years later that the dinosaur renaissance happened, when we get influx of new information and new ideas. This is when like dinosaurs became like, maybe they're birds, maybe they're related to birds. Let's bring back that theory, or that they're actually not reptiles and carrying parents and stuff. But out with the old and in with the new, But sometimes you have to wait for people to die in order for things to change.
Do you think that's still a situation today, or more people up to allowing new information to change their theories?
Well, it depends on what discipline you're in. It really does. So in paleontology, I think we're more open to ideas just because the amount of information that we have is not available. So a lot of it's somewhat speculation. That's where you get some kind of crazy ideas like Dilophosaurus spat venom, or what's another crazy one?
The frills on the Dilophosaurus.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. Very reptile-esque. A bunch of different stuff. But in like archaeology, though, can be very dogmatic, unfortunately. New ideas take generations to set in. And it's unfortunate. But that's kind of what we're faced with. There's, I guess, more of a Wild West when it comes to paleontology, because we're always trying to discover more. And, yeah.
Now things like spitting venom, various extra flaps, say nodules and various crests that could form are more just hypothetical, because unless we have something solid, we can't really say those things exist. Like venom glands aren't necessarily going to show, which is more of a liberty that they took, Michael Crichton in Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the whole debate with the Velociraptor. Okay, what we see on the screen
is
not the representation of what the actual Velociraptor is. It's the size of a turkey, and it's covered in feathers, and it has a long snoot. Whereas really the Velociraptors in the movie are based on Deinonychus, but you have to think, what sells more? The name Deinonychus or the name Velociraptor? Velociraptor.
Oh, it's marketing, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% marketing. Yeah. And Michael Crichton even says in an interview, like, hey, I'm sorry I did that, but
it sold.
It sold. And, I wouldn't say that's really, it's still not even truly Deinonychus. It's still a variation.
Isn't the closest they get to is maybe, and this is still by a long shot, the Utah Raptor?
Yeah, in size comparison, I would say. There's still some differences, but as the JP movies have moved, they've gotten up just a bit closer. But they're still afraid to jump from that look,
Well, they don't want a soft, cuddly, fuzzy T-Rex out there. They need somebody who's got blood dripping up their teeth.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why like the Jurassic World movies, we don't see anything with a bunch of feathers.
Mm-hmm.
But the trailer for Dominion did drop today, and there's a raptor in there that has feathers, and I'm uber excited.
That's a giveaway when we're recording this, so.
Sorry, spoils. I mean, it's out there already, folks. You just gotta watch it.
Yep. I
Um,
did not know that too, so as soon as it's over, I know what I'm doing.
yeah.
So.
There's more, but I won't spoil it.
Oh, I don't care about spoilers. It's so
neither
bad.
do I.
We do movie reviews too. We took Dune, and yeah, we spoiled the hell out of it.
Oh,
But we
yeah.
warn everybody it's going to be spoilers, and
Yeah.
because we want to actually break it down and talk about it. And you know, if you don't want to hear about that one little detail that's going to ruin the whole movie for you, don't listen. So.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. But yeah, no, it's just Hollywood trying to sell what the idea was. Because when JP came out, Jurassic Park in '94, like at the time, the science that was the pinnacle of science in '94. And now give it 30 years later, and everything is different. Like
I will say this: the CG done for the dinosaurs still holds up today.
yes.
Where some of the CG, even a few years ago, it's just not the same.
Oh yeah, it's atrocious. Like
Yeah.
trying to watch like an early 2000s movie when they quickly adopted all that technology. It was just it's not the same.
Yeah.
And you have to give it to Stan Winston too with his practical effects
Right. Yeah.
that he did. I mean, that movie could have been all stop motion, but if it wasn't for the two guys.
Yeah. And an example, The Thing, 84. The Thing was 82. Whatever. John Carpenter's
Yeah,
The Thing. Practical effects phenomenal. Go back. Let's fast forward to 2016. When they did the prequel.
Yeah,
They wanted to stick with a whole bunch of practical effects, but the people who had the money said, no, you're going to go on CG, which is why it did not hold up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought the acting and the cast, I thought that was fine. The
Oh,
story was good.
If they stuck to practical, it would have been phenomenal.
Yes,
Right.
it would have. I think that's. I think really having a blend of those two things is really important, which is why kind of like movies like Avatar still even hold up, even though it's for us it's 13 years,
Right.
and they still try to blend that instead of it just all being just blue screen and green screens.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, as a videographer myself, I feel too many people have gone the way of CG. I'm guilty myself because it's cheaper for me to take a model, put it into a 3D environment and do what I need versus, actually getting the actors, building the miniatures and models.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I prefer that. Computers are a hell of a lot faster.
No, I totally get it, and it's kind of interesting to see how technology has developed through time. What was easy 100 years ago, we look back on it and we're like, how does this device work? We've lost that generational knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Whereas practical effects, 40 years ago, that was the thing.
Yep.
And now it's not, so it's what do you do? It's kind of annoying.
Yep. And speaking of technology, that can bring us back to Jurassic Park and back to dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Is in the original Jurassic Park, they were using shockwaves to start mapping underground. And I think what was the line from the movie? In the future, we will no longer have to dig.
Oh, so that was fantasy technology. We've experimented with GPR, which is ground penetrating radar. It's most commonly used on archaeological sites, or heck, even your local, your sewer guys that have to go out there and find your lines and stuff like that. Yeah, so we can use GPR, but really it comes up with a blob. So one of my intern friends, they're from Carbondale. Their name is Alex. They're a fantastic person, but they were experimenting with GPR at one of the sites they were managing, trying to see if they could find bones or something, and it doesn't come up as a clean image. It's literally just a dark spot
Well,
in a section of Earth.
with my engineering science background, I always thought that was very novel, but I didn't think it would work, and I didn't think it would stop anybody from digging,
Yeah.
because there's going to be so much more information you can get once you have them physically in your hands. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between, say, soft tissue that's fossilized, stomach content that's fossilized, and a rib
Correct.
using the sound.
Yeah. All our information comes directly from the bone. We can't just look at it and get an idea. But that does bring me to another point of like how technology has revolutionized, you know, the landscape of paleontology. And one of them is photogrammetry. Are you familiar with photogrammetry? Okay. So it's taking a picture of something and you're turning it into a 3D object.
Okay.
So you take a series of pictures, just like a 360. You're kind of making a sphere around the object. And you take that into a program. For example, the one I've worked with is Agisoft Metashape. And you combine that together, and I'm simplifying the process, to be honest. Clean it up, and you have a 3D object. And the idea for this is preservation without the need for tourist intervention. So the problem that we face as archaeologists is historical sites, not just paleontological, but historical, we tend to turn those into tourist things, or people don't have the same propensity to care for these sort of places. And so we have to think on ways to preserve them through time. And one way is through digital mapping of making 3D models. My professor, Dr. Alex Badillo of Indiana State University, he does this in Oaxaca, Mexico, and he's done it for the site of Monte Aban as well as various other sites, just in ways of digital preservation as we move forward, because they're not always going to be there. Like, for example, I was at this site called Miatlan, and it was a temple. It was a Spanish Catholic temple that was built next to a Zapotec temple. Now, the Zapotecs are they're like the Aztecs, the Mayans, and all that. They're just not known, but they are a big power in Central Mexico. But I digress.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
I could go down that rabbit hole too. So.
Yeah, but the site, for example, it has beautiful frescoes. You know, plaster walls that have that are painted, beautiful motifs. But the problem is it's a tourist site, so everyone comes, and what do tourists do? They want to touch things. They want to leave an imprint because this is important. Some it might still be sacred to them because the Zapotec culture endures. But the frescoes are mostly all gone. People have torn away at the plaster. It's terrible. And they've carved into the rest of it. The only ones that you can see are the ones up high that people can't reach.
Oof.
Yeah. And we destroy those. We degrade them, you know. Like, and that information is just lost to time. So what do we do? This is the best thing we can do. Otherwise, we have to just shut down the sites completely from people. It's a hard issue because the public deserves to know, and they deserve the culture, they deserve the history, and even the world. But how can you find a balance in that? It's really hard. So. But yeah, so photogrammetry. Sorry, I didn't mean to get all doom and gloom.
No, it's in the name. Tangents on everything and nothing.
Yeah, but photogrammetry turn things into 3D objects. I've done work with Colombian pottery, as well as just local artifacts. We also started experimenting at the Dinosaur Center with doing dinosaur bones. But the problem is the technology is still getting up to snuff. There's a lot better programs out there now, but dinosaur bone's very porous. It's got a lot of holes. Just think about the skeleton, how many like little bits and crevices there are. And trying to get every little bit right is really difficult. You end up having to take hundreds of photos of the object. And compressing that in takes hours of processing. Like, I remember sitting in the lab for like 6 hours waiting on one model to process. And that was on, 32 gigabytes of RAM. And I don't know, it was a pretty powerful GeForce processor. So, yeah, it was rough.
You don't have a Threadripper? Come on.
I think we invested in stuff, better processors and better stuff the next semester.
I understand. I do a lot of 3D work and video editing and at 4K and to standard definition, and even my little system just suffers from it. I need an upgrade, and thank you all your people who are keeping chip supply low.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it can be pretty rough. Like I'm pretty sure that the school just gave my professor a budget, and he went out and bought gaming laptops because that was the best thing that they could get. Right off the bat.
Yeah. Tangent off that, I need to upgrade my GPU. Needed to do that for over a year. Haven't been able to.
It's been rough.
The only way I can do it right now, and guarantee something in, is to just buy a whole nother pre-built.
Yeah. No, that's.
But I don't have those funds. I can't even afford the outrageous prices they've been putting on the cards.
Oh yeah, it's been rough because I was going to rebuild my computer because I had a 2014 that it was I was barely hanging on, but I want to play better games and I couldn't. So, but then COVID happened.
Yeah.
The prices went up and I ended up just buying a pre-built. I put it on the card. I paid it off, and but that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. I'm happy with it. It's great, but shouldn't have to be this way.
And being a university, you'd think they'd have some better connections, but they probably don't.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
ISU is a great school, but it has limitations. It does. And that can depend on a lot of different things. Like, it's not really a good school to go for I would say, paleontology, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for one, there's no dinosaurs in this area at all. Like, the best thing that we could find is mastodons and maybe mammoths. You guys found a mastodon just around here not too long ago.
Right. Somebody pulled up some teeth and was a fragment of a tusk or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going through the records for my bioanthropology class, which is we're basically doing forensic work within graves, like learning the motifs of grave goods and stuff, and everything. But anyway, for a school project, I was going through the local records of Terre Haute. And I found some articles in the paper of when they were building 3rd Street, I believe. Up near Holman, they found tusks, or they found part of mastodon or a woolly mammoth.
That's pretty neat.
Skeleton. But that was in the late 19th century, early 20th century, so who knows where.
Cast aside, sitting in somebody's basement, maybe at the museum?
Maybe. Who knows, man? People didn't care as much back then. It's pretty rough.
That goes back to the ego. I mean, they dig it up and find it out. They wouldn't document as much as they needed to.
Well, let's take, for instance, the Icon building in Terre Haute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if you remember, this was 2017.
Okay.
But they're trying to convert that old factory building next to the river into lofts. Because, ISU's running out of room. Unfortunately, they keep accepting people, but
maybe not enough of them are graduating. They're just sticking around.
Maybe. I mean, you kind of get stuck in Terre Haute. That's the running joke, But yeah. So anyway, they're converting the Icon building into lofts, and while they're doing construction, I believe it was on. I don't want to be too privy, but it was somewhere in the south area of town, or the south side of it. No, maybe. Either way, I can't.
It was somewhere in Terre Haute.
I can't give. Well, I know where the building is. I don't want to give exact locations in case someone's like, "Hey, I want to go dig up bones." because that's a bad idea. Do not dig up human remains in the state of United States. You will get
In
fined.
the state of United States?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm dumb. In the United States, especially Indiana, we have NAGPR laws that will prevent that, especially if they're Native American, which they might be, or early settlers. Either way, don't dig up human remains. You will go to jail. You will be fined a lot of money. Anyway, so whoever put that building in, this was like the 30s. In the 30s, no one cared.
Mm-hmm.
They had dug plumbing through graves. Like, there was coffins that were still somewhat intact that had piping going through them.
Going through it. They didn't even move it. Did they know, or?
Oh, they had to have known.
Yeah.
They had to have known. And part of the foundation, is sitting on top of it. So, and from what we can tell so soil's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Once you dig it up and you put it back, it's not the same.
Right.
It's very obvious when you dig it up. You can see the stratigraphy of the soil, and you find some bits of bone within what was their piles back in the day.
Mm.
So what they had tossed back in, with their shovels and stuff, had bits and pieces in it, and that's just there's no respect.
Mm.
Even if they might have been their ancestors. It's I don't know. There's such a disconnect. I don't get it, but yeah. So we have to try and preserve those sort of things, because society now just moves so fast. Especially with computers, the space age, everything. It's so dynamic, and even now, what was the thing 10 years ago is now just so beyond it, what has transpired. It's become hybridized, right? And our ways of thinking are. And I think that just kind of happens as we progress. We just tend to forget about things. Everything's tossed aside in the nature of progress, the pursuit of progress, I guess. Especially within, I guess, the Western viewpoints. But I don't know.
So, what got you into dinosaurs?
What got me into dinosaurs? It was Jurassic Park when it came out. I was 3 at the time, and that was the first movie I went and saw, and I was scared as heck. But I was just always into them. I got every dinosaur book I could, every dinosaur toy I could get. I lived the Jurassic Park series. And I wanted to be a paleontologist. I wanted to be Dr. Grant.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I wanted to be. As dinosaurs are just cool. They're just like Earth. They're just like our dragons in a way.
Mm-hmm.
These giant monsters that ruled before humans. And the problem is you kind of have to grow up at some point, right?
Right.
But that little kid is still in you. Being a paleontologist in this area, it's like, what do, where do you go to school for that? And also your interests change. You become a teenager and you become dumb.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah, it happens. You think you want to do one thing or you want to do another. You have a lot of interests. If you have, the time to explore different interests. When I went to Lakeland College over in Mattoon, I decided to become a veterinarian. That's what I want to be. Took some animal science classes and realized that wasn't the field for me.
Just noped it on out?
Well, the problem was, oh man. So the problem was I wanted to work with dogs, cats. I wanted to be, taking care of home pets and stuff. You have to obviously do some help farm animals and whatnot as a veterinarian, and that's fine. but they really got me into farm classes, into agricultural science, and it was more of like, yeah, we care about the animals, but only to the extent that they feed us.
Mhm.
And that was a real turnoff for me. It's like, this is just product. Like,
Mhm.
part of one of my, I think the class was beef and cattle was the class. And you had to get meat certified.
Mhm.
Like, I had to go through and understand the different marblings of meat, the different cuts and everything. And I'm
Mhm.
like, this isn't what I wanted to do. This isn't what I expected to do.
Yeah.
And the problem too is, like, to get the better education, the right education you wanted, you'd have to go to like U of I, and I don't have the money for U of I. You know, at the time that was, $50,000 a year, a semester. I don't remember. Either way, it was expensive.
Still a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a real wall for people that want to do more.
Mhm.
But what you have access to is what you have access to. And that's kind of like what we have at ISU. It gives you, a good sense of what you're getting into, but it's not necessarily what you wanted.
Mhm.
Like, I wanted to put a shovel in the ground. I want to dig. You do 4 years of schooling, and you find out you can't dig until you at least have your master's.
Oh.
And
Why
it's like,
why masters to be able to dig?
that's when they take you seriously. That means
Okay.
you have set aside the time to really delve into your discipline, to focus on what you want to do. Because, within anthropology, you have the 4 sub-disciplines, and archaeology, there's different things into that too.
Mhm.
Um,
So now that you're there, you're at shovel time. How much percentage-wise, throw a number out there, are you actually in the field digging?
as an archaeologist,
Archaeologist,
maybe.
paleontologist.
Archaeologist, not so much. Like, less than a few hours of shovel time. As a paleontologist, I'm at several hundred. I'm more. Like, I can go and dig up dinosaurs. Like, it's not a problem. As long as you understand, your property rights, your land rights, and you have your permissions, it's okay, because dinosaur bones are not human.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing attached to them other than scientific interest.
Yeah. Kind of related to that, I'm into the vulture culture. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, enlighten me.
Collecting dead things.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry
And there's very specific rules. Birds, don't touch them.
Yeah.
Unless you know it's non-native, it's safer just to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Starlings, take them. Crows, don't touch. Raptors, completely off limits.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just about everything else, okay, if there happens to be another bear in Indiana, yeah, you can't touch that. Nor mountain lions are weird because they officially don't exist in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. Neither do panthers,
Mhm.
and them.
Yeah, when I lived in Florida, you had to report any large cats that you found on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Here, they kind of tell you to make it disappear if you find one. I haven't found one.
Yeah.
But
they're out there.
Mhm.
They're out there, man. It's I don't know. The way laws work anymore, it's weird. And as humans encroach on those habitats, the less we see.
Mhm.
It's the worst thing. What was very prosperous is now non-existent.
Yeah, that's why I really like the Southwest, and I should just say the West in general. You can still get into large areas, hundreds of square miles that are relatively untouched.
Right. So, fun fact, jaguars
Mhm.
of Central America, well, they have been known to migrate up north. There's rumors there's some scant documents or something reporting them as like plains lions. I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, and I think they've even tracked a few with like cams all the way up until like Canada,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which would explain some large black cat sightings that we get. Like over in Illinois, if you get into around the Charleston area, there's always been like legends of a black cat within the last 20 or so years.
There was a horse attack in this county just north of where we are now 6-7 months ago.
Horse attack? Did they bite them?
They basically tried to, the lions tried to eat the horses, so their hindquarters were ripped up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. This is what happens when you try to forget things that hurt you, especially when it comes to history.
Yeah.
But I digress. But yeah, there's large cats in this area, and if I remember, God, it's been years. Didn't some like large cats escape from a sanctuary?
Yeah, a large cat rescue just west of here. There's been several rumors that some have escaped. The ones that did, that I heard about, this comes from them directly, the Big Cat Rescue, were recovered.
Yeah, I thought they were all gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they got them all.
That was several years ago.
Yeah, I was a young lad then.
But, yeah, if you can actually find trail cams from Greene County, Vigo County, Clay County, Owen County, and all the surrounding counties, people have them walking in their backyard.
Yeah, it's scary. And just to think that's just Indiana. Could you imagine like somewhere else? Mm-hmm. Like I lived in Florida for a while, and I've had friends where it's just like, there's a gator right there in my lawn.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I did that. I lived in Florida for a while, and we had we lived next to a pond. There was gators there. I worked at a place that had a retention pond around it for flood control, and people walking around the building for their lunch or break exercise would have to watch out for the gators. Yeah, because one came up at me out the ramp, but they were sunning. He was a little 4-footer. It was nothing, and just hissed and stomped to intimidate.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were there. There's something we had to be careful of all the time.
Yeah. They usually handle, like if there's a large gator, they usually handle it pretty quickly once it's reported. They want to make sure everyone's okay down there as much as possible.
We looked into also, there was a monitor issue in a couple counties south of Tampa.
Oh yeah.
And we were going to try to get onto that crew to track them down and help remove the population.
Yeah.
And we're not talking Komodo, we're talking Nile monitors. They can get about 5-6 foot in length.
Yeah, they're pretty, but they're long and they're more narrow. They're just fast.
They're mostly tail and teeth.
Yeah. They have a good bite on them.
Known to take down larger prey, but would mostly go after your small domestic animals.
Yeah.
That didn't mean you didn't run over them in your car, because they would just shoot out in front. Again, I lived north of Tampa, so I didn't really see very much of this, but the stories would come in all the time.
It's mostly down south near Miami and like Key West.
Sarasota, that area.
Yeah, you see a lot of their problems, especially like with the iguanas too. Like everyone like sees iguanas as just plant eaters, but they can go after animals and they will bite you.
Oh yeah.
Like
mostly they'll whip you with the tail.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will. And they just get big.
I've experienced that firsthand.
Like they were falling out of the trees a few weeks ago.
It got so cold, yeah.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, it got cold enough to actually put a huge dent into the invasive species population.
Yeah.
Hurricane Katrina actually helped in
spread them
a lot, because a lot of the zoos, basically their containers, their cages, their sanctuaries got busted out, and the Everglades became a huge sanctuary. So you were finding ostriches, you were finding pythons, you were finding all sorts of things out there. Yep. And when it got really cold in Florida, where it actually snowed in several areas, not just in the Panhandle.
Okay.
And that helped wipe out a lot of the invasive species.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't end them.
No, it doesn't. It just kind of suppresses them now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's even showing, there's evidence being shown within the pythons down there that they're able to endure it.
Mm-hmm.
even if it does reach them to a certain extent.
Yeah.
It's quite scary. Now, one thing like we could do is we could, find ways to utilize those animals.
Mhm.
Like what we do like with hogs in Texas. Like they're invasive.
Oh yeah.
What do? We hunt them and eat them.
Mhm.
Like iguana. I've had iguana. Iguana's pretty good
Yeah.
actually. It's
For those who don't know, you mostly just can eat the tail. So.
depends
Yeah.
on the size. But yeah, it's a lot of it. We had that when I was down in Oaxaca, Mexico. We also
Nice.
had grasshopper on just cheese and tortilla, just rolled. It was pretty simple meal, but it was good. It tastes like popcorn, like kind of like burnt popcorn a little
Mhm.
bit. It was like, oh, it's crunchy. It's popcorn.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. But
Yeah.
all the girls around me like squealed a little bit. It was just like, it's food. Like
Yeah.
this is their culture, man.
Yep.
Gotta eat it.
And that's the one thing about when you go to other areas. I'm not afraid to at least try.
Yeah.
But there's some things I'm sure I'll only try once. But other than that, I'm still not going to turn my nose up to it.
I don't blame you.
You asked me that question 20 years ago. I said hell no to a lot of things.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
life's full of experiences. You gotta take them when you can, and explore. Because one day you're not gonna be able to. Like, I'm already feeling the creaks in my knees. Like, I just turned 30 this year, so
And you've had the injury then.
yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. Like, I blame sword fighting. Always
Mhm.
wear knee pads.
Yeah.
For sure. But, take care of yourself. If you want to keep doing things, that's the worst thing. But,
Yep.
like, what's interesting now is, like, human populations, like, we're living so much longer than we used to. Like, we have kind of this societal bloat.
Mhm.
And you probably see this dynamic, especially when it comes to, like, caring for the elderly. Like, that's become a huge industry.
Mhm.
Whereas it used to not be, because people would just kind of keel over dead for
Mhm.
unknown reasons, because medical science, like, it really picked up post World War II. Thanks World War II.
Well, you have vaccines.
Yes.
That helped. The advancements from World War II medically.
That's questionable. But
Right.
like, if you go to a cemetery, one thing to look for is look for children's graves.
Yeah.
Like, once you get into the 20th century, you start to see less and less of those things.
And that also coordinates with vaccines again.
Yeah.
And you'll see fewer and fewer. It'll go from like even in cemeteries here in Spencer, you'll find row after row of kids who barely made it into the double digits.
Mhm.
Several that didn't even make it out of the single digits. But those dates are now 9 of them will be 50 years ago, and 1 of them will be recent.
Yeah.
And that numbers continues that gap keeps growing.
Yeah.
Yep.
As we decrease, infant death and increase longevity, we have such a huge population spike. And the worst thing that comes of this is being a product of vaccines and this medical science that's developed, is we tend to forget about these things. Like, if we're not under threat,
Mm-hmm.
people don't tend to care. They don't look into the history behind it. They don't try to understand it. And that's what we see now with everything. Like, everyone's trying to compare this to the bubonic plague, and it's not the bubonic plague,
Not even
but
close.
it's still something to take serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like where was I going with that? Oh yeah, God. You still have to take it serious, because it's still a threat to everyone. Like, it may not affect young people or very healthy people very much, but if we want to preserve our generational knowledge, this is part of it. Like, losing old people, like, whereas that can be very bad, has benefits in the larger thing. I don't know where I'm going with that. That sounds very like evil, like a mad genius would say. But just in, helping to like, I guess, try to understand what is being lost here, is really the only thing you really get out of that.
Maybe we can, I won't say summarize the idea that with the separation and the lack of that knowledge being there, the normality that has come from all these advancements, we forget the benefits. Yes.
Yeah. We definitely forget the benefits. And that's the problem, is humans, we are an interesting species in that we have godlike technology that's almost on the level of magic, with feudalistic systems within our governments, and we think with our reptilian brains. When I say reptilian brains, I mean our emotions. And because of that, we think here in the now. Like, and that's a huge problem. We don't really think multi-generationally anymore. And the problem is a lot of our problems are multi-generational problems. We're still dealing with stuff from World War I,
Yep.
especially with Europe. We're still dealing with conflicts from the Civil War that weren't resolved. Why do you think we have the movements we do today? We have such stark contrast within our political atmosphere. It's sometimes with the way the media portrays it, and you have to take that with a grain of salt, it's the media influence too, but it's trying to be brother against brother again. Why are we being separated? Well, you could look at, like the South, and during the war, they made sure to separate the poor white farmer from the poor slave to create this divide, like us versus them, the great other, which is this idea. But I don't remember the question. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't think it was really much of a question as much as we were going in a direction.
Yeah.
And talking about how, basically wrapping it up, how much human nature is still very, I'll use your term, reptilian brain versus the logical aspects we need to actually grapple and use to go forward.
Well, I mean, if you watch Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And the problem is we push so far, and it's just like the Jurassic Park quote, and now I can't remember, but you did it without even thinking of the consequences, You
did it without thinking of should we do it?
Yes.
Still paraphrasing it.
Yes.
Sorry, Goldblum.
You didn't ask the question, should we do it, or why should we do it? That's the problem, is we don't ask questions. And I think this is a problem within our society, is we lack critical thinking. You have to look at the question as not a blank statement. You have to look at it as a three-dimensional thing, in that there's multiple ways to grasp it and understand it. And that's applied to everything from politics to science to religion to everything, to even us.
I've actually watched the last 4 decades, the teaching of critical thinking, the use of critical thinking. The teaching is almost all but disappeared, and the actual using of it has been discouraged quite greatly in several forms.
Well, for instance, I guess since we're talking about history, and I'm sure anyone can relate to this, who likes learning about the Revolutionary War, 14 or dozen times, however many it is?
Right.
Who wants to keep learning about that? Who wants to keep learning about the same thing over and over? The Pilgrims came to America. It was Jamestown. It was this.
I would like to learn it the correct way.
Yes, I would like to learn it the correct way, but it's not. It's dubbed down for children. And politics, unfortunately, has influence to that, where it changes. It's like, I read an excerpt from a book where it was the colonists came, and the Indians helped out, and they all went fine, and the Indians just went away.
They crossed over the sea.
When you don't, like, we're too scared of the truth because we don't want to admit that we have faults, and that's the problem. And even things that don't impact us, like, does the conflicts of the Civil War impact you today? No, of course it doesn't to you, but it does to some other people because it's stratified into and distilled into something else, into some different fashion. But either way, with critical thinking, like if you can't look at the different aspects of it and understand all the problems, even the dark things, even the troubled things that upset us, we have to understand those things and come to terms with it if we want to move forward. And I don't think our society is necessarily ready to do that. We're getting progress now, but how is that progress being steered?
Not very well, because nobody's ready to rip the Band-Aid off.
Well,
I shouldn't say nobody, but enough.
I would like for the transition to be peaceful, and I'm afraid that, and this isn't just our country, this is in general the world, it's not going to be a peaceful transition, because things are so hybridized now. Like, look at what happened, last January.
Right.
And that started off as discussions within Facebook. And those were pushed because of the emotions and everything. And you expect people to have rational thought then?
Well, going back to the reptilian brain idea, is people are going to go to what they find is comfortable, and they're going to latch onto it.
Yes.
It's really hard for somebody to break away and accept that change. It's possible. We all do it. But everybody wants a security blanket.
Yeah. People want to dive into fantasy. Why do you think it's pushed on us so much? Like, Marvel movies now are just so much of a thing. Like, they've become hybridized. They're embedded within our culture now. The heroes, or even Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and we just digest that, and we binge it over and over every day, escaping from a troubled world.
Absolutely, I agree. I love that idea of finding that escape, getting into movies, getting into films, watching it. But there's a constant thing that has been happening that is really, on my personal level, just drives the living shit out of me.
What's that?
They're all happy endings.
Yeah.
I like to see something happen. It's rare it happens where the ending is not happy.
Yeah. So, like, I'm really big into anime, and I tend to like dark fantasy as well. Like, Warhammer 40K, like that type of universe, because it's grim dark.
Right. Because
the hero doesn't always win. Sometimes the hero gets ripped to shreds, and dies horribly, and they don't win. What do you do? Like, it's more real life, because
and there's lessons to learn in those stories too. But I will say this is mostly an American culture, because that is an American thing, is to always have a happy ending. We are Disneyfied in that aspect.
Oh yeah, we are. Like, if people understood, like, the realities of some of those Disney fairy tales, they wouldn't look at them the same.
Right.
Like, I read a post recently. It was the take on Aragorn and Boromir. Everyone's ideal when they watch Lord of the Rings, especially when you're a kid. You want to be Aragorn. He's the hero. He knows what to do. He has the destiny. But in reality, everyone's Boromir. Like, Boromir picks up the charge because not only does he have to, he's expected to, and he's carrying the weight of his people, all the problems that they dealt with. He isn't this, he is a big man, but he carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And unlike Aragorn, I mean, Aragorn in the beginning is more elf
Mhm.
than he is human. Like, there is no connection there. But to be human is to suffer. And that's where we are all unified, is within our suffering, our emotions. Everyone feels anger. Everyone feels sadness, joy. Like, that's what unifies us. And if we understood that, and we could try to focus on those emotions, maybe the world would be a better place. But right now it's dark. The reality is, you know.
I do have to disagree with. I don't think everybody's Boromir because I want to be Pippin.
I mean, Pippin's great.
Yeah.
Love Pippin. I really liked Merry because it was just like he always just kind of tagged along. And it
Right.
honestly kind of reminded me of my mom because I was a mama's boy when I was a kid. And my dad would work all the time. My mom would be off, so I'd hang out with her more. And she'd always go and do something. And here comes me tagging along, trying to be there.
I really do
for-
think that Mary was just there to kind of, I know Pippin's going to fuck something up. Let's watch this.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, good old Lord of the Rings. Which I think they just dropped.
They just released Power of the Ring series on that show program thing I'm not going to mention. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Not sure how I feel about it. I've kind of been hesitant because I have really terrible internet where I live and it's hard to watch stuff.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not going to be a travesty. Like, you're messing with a very powerful IP. Like, you have to be very delicate.
Yeah,
with it.
supposedly they did use Silmarillion a lot, but a lot of it's also
I mean, it takes place
Yeah.
during the Second Age,
yeah.
doesn't it? So, like, you can bring in stuff of the Silmarillion, but it's like,
But they still are going to have to make up 75, 80, 90% of it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, well, there's sources that they can go off of, but, you know, it's more open to interpretation than, you know.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. So, what can you do? I'm just gonna go for the ride,
Yeah.
and
See what
it's
happens.
kind of like the Wheel of Time, right now.
I
Like,
couldn't get into that one. I've watched like 3 episodes, and it's like it's missing something. It's really. I haven't read the book. A good friend of mine has, so I understand that a lot is missing.
it's just, I don't know. It just feels like the atmosphere is off every time I watch it.
Mhm.
Like, if I switched over and watched Game of Thrones, it's like, you know, there's different artist takes on it, directorial takes and production takes that they could have done, and it almost feels like I'm watching like a Disney movie in a way,
Mhm.
like a Disney fantasy movie, and some parts I'm like, this is too dumb, and then other parts I'm like, this reminds me of like just the scenes and how they play out. It's like Twilight, and I'm like, oh, this is dumb. You're taking aspects away from it.
Mhm.
And to some people, they really like it, and that's fine. But for my personal take, that's how I feel. So to each their own. But you know, you're not getting canceled like Cowboy Bebop.
I actually enjoyed that one for the fun. I know they dumbed it down from the
Oh, yeah.
anime, but
They had to.
they made it fun. It was still, but the fact that it's gone, I'll live with it. Move on.
I enjoyed it. I just didn't expect it to get canceled that fast. And
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels dumb, really. Like how much fan hate can push things to change in the better or the worse.
And
Like, look at Sonic the Hedgehog.
Right.
Like, that could have been way worse. And if you guys are fans of Halo, you should petition Halo to make some changes. I'm just saying, I have some slight problems, but I'm also very hopeful with some things. I'm trying not to be that kind of awful person.
Speaking of awful people, it's that time. Library's getting ready to shut down, so we've got to
shame.
close. thanks for coming on the show. Let's do this again.
Yeah. Didn't even talk about sword fighting stuff either.
Well, that's the nature of this show. We
Yeah.
really start somewhere, see where it goes, and we really took a roundabout way to get to anime.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is correct. But
we'll do this again hopefully soon.
yeah, I'm up for it.
Awesome. We got more to talk about. Would you want to do? When does the next Jurassic Park movie come out?
Next Jurassic Park movie comes out, I believe, June 10th.
June 10th. So we'll have to wait for you to come back from Wyoming through the summer. We should do a review on it.
Yeah.
Or we could do the review. I don't know. What's have you call in on Spotify or not Spotify? Some of those other programs, Zoom and all that.
One
do it
of
that way.
those.
Yeah.
I will do my best. Our internet out there is not the greatest. I will let you know. We are literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The joke is like if you get bit by a snake or hit by a scorpion, you have 2 hours to the hospital for them to treat you. So internet's very sparse.
Yep. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll pass it on to future me so you can get all the sponsorship information and all that other stuff. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.
Take care, folks.
Hello and welcome back. That was our interview with Mick Arney. He's from Terre Haute. He's a paleontologist. Been to Wyoming, going back to Wyoming here in the summer of 2022 to dig up more fossils. I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you want to be on the show, give us a contact at radioactiveshack@timeofyourhalflife.com. Once again, that's timeofyourhalf-life.com. A special thank you to all our supporters out there, those of you in the U.S., those of you in Germany, the couple people we've had in Canada and Italy. Once again, big thanks to Civilian
Israel.
Brew Corps. Huh?
Israel.
Oh, and Israel. Special thanks to Civilian Brew Corps. Special thanks to Sol Miguel. If you want to help us grow, just give us a mention. Reach out to us. We're always looking to expand. If you want to be on the show, I work at Babs. Say hi. I'm Jeremiah Freeman. John Simon is behind the camera. Sam Sturgeon is way behind the camera. We're halfway through February. We'll have more stuff here. As the weather turns better, we'll have more stuff again after that as the weather turns cold.
Plague Doctor Comics will be on the show next Monday.
Okay. John, press the button.
Hello, Andy. This is Colin. I won't be able to get in tonight. I'm sweating like a pig. I'm sweating like a pig. I'm sweating like a pig.